Black artist draws a portrait of Beyoncé. What she does next leaves the world stunned. James, a young and talented artist, spends his days sketching portraits in a crowded park, hoping to earn enough to support his ailing mother. One fateful afternoon, his life takes an unexpected turn when a mysterious woman stops by his stand. As James carefully sketches the woman's radiant smile, he has no idea he's capturing the essence of one of the most iconic figures in the world. When her true identity is revealed, the decision she makes not only changes James's life, but also sends shockwaves across the globe. Before we dive deeper into this gripping story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Epic Story Moments. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Like, share, and comment to support more. Incredible stories like this. James adjusted his worn-out cap and looked around the park with hopeful eyes. The sprawling city park was a constant buzz of activity, joggers racing against time, couples enjoying serene walks, and children laughing as they chased each other. Among this vibrancy, James's corner often went unnoticed, a quiet nook under the shade of a sturdy oak tree. He sat there every day, his makeshift setup a simple foldable stool and a wooden easel holding up a board that read, Asterisk Custom Portraits. Pay what you can, asterisk around him. A few of his best sketches were pinned to attract customers. Captivating faces etched in black and white, their eyes seemingly alive. But for all their beauty, they rarely stopped anyone in their tracks. James sighed as he wiped his hands on his jeans, smudged with charcoal stains from earlier work. His life wasn't easy, but he couldn't let himself give in to despair. Back home, his mother lay bedridden, her health declining steadily. The money James earned from these portraits was barely enough to keep the lights on, let alone cover her expensive medications. Yet he couldn't stop trying. Her warm smile and unwavering faith in him fueled his every effort. As the afternoon sun bathed the park in a golden glow, James's hands moved with precision over his sketch pad. He was working on a portrait of a young boy who had shyly requested his picture. The boy and his mother had paid only a few dollars, apologizing for not being able to give more. James had smiled, shaking his head. "It's enough," he had said softly. It always was. But today, the strain of his circumstances weighed heavier on his shoulders. He hadn't had a proper meal in 2 days, choosing instead to stretch every dollar to buy groceries for his mother. Still, he told himself this was temporary. One day, he muttered under his breath, one day the struggle will all be worth it. As he packed the boy's portrait into a protective sleeve, he noticed a woman in casual clothes and oversized sunglasses approaching his stand. Her movements were unhurried, almost deliberate, as though she was soaking in the atmosphere of the park. She paused by his display board, her head tilting slightly as she examined his work. James quickly straightened, brushing invisible dust off his sketch pad. Customers like her, dressed well, exuding confidence, rarely stopped, let alone paid. But this woman seemed different. There was something about the way she studied his art, her lips curling into a faint, almost wistful smile. "Do you sketch in color?" she asked, her voice smooth and warm. James blinked, momentarily thrown off by the question. Most people asked about price or time, never about the medium. Not usually," he said, regaining his composure. "I work mostly in charcoal. It captures emotions better." The woman nodded thoughtfully before looking directly at him. "Can you capture mine?" Her words were simple, but there was an unexpected weight to them. James hesitated, caught off guard by the intensity of her gaze behind the sunglasses. "Of course," he finally said, gesturing to the stool across from him. "Please take a seat." As she sat down, James couldn't shake the feeling that there was something extraordinary about her. Her posture was poised yet relaxed, her presence commanding yet approachable. He pushed the thought aside, telling himself it didn't matter who she was. What mattered was doing justice to the moment with his art. Unbeknownst to James, this was no ordinary customer. The woman sitting before him was none other than Beyoncé, disguised and exploring the city undercover. But for James, she was just another face waiting to be sketched, another chance to pour his heart into his work. And as he began to draw, the park seemed to fade away, leaving only the quiet rhythm of his pencil and the face of a stranger who would soon change his destiny. It was an ordinary day in the city, but for Beyoncé, it was a rare moment of freedom. Dressed in casual jeans, a loose hoodie, and oversized sunglasses, she strolled through the streets unnoticed. She had grown tired of the constant spotlight and decided to explore the city like any other person. No cameras, no security, just her and the world. The vibrant energy of the park drew her in. Laughter echoed through the air. Children played tag on the grass, and the aroma of street food wafted from nearby stalls. Beyoncé loved observing these moments, the simplicity of life that fame often stole from her. As she walked past vendors selling jewelry, paintings, and snacks, something caught her eye. A small setup under a large tree, a display of hand-drawn portraits pinned to a wooden board. Each face seemed alive, their emotions vividly captured in strokes of charcoal. Intrigued, she slowed her pace, her gaze fixed on a young man sitting behind the makeshift stall. His hands moved skillfully, sketching the face of a child with intense focus. His brow furrowed in concentration, yet there was a calmness about him, a silent determination in his demeanor. Beyoncé couldn't help but admire his work. She moved closer, studying the portraits on display. An elderly woman with wise eyes, a laughing couple, a child clutching a teddy bear. Each one told a story, and Beyoncé felt drawn to the artist behind them. "Excuse me," she said, her voice breaking through the ambient noise. The young man looked up, slightly startled. Beyoncé noticed the tiredness in his eyes, but also a spark of creativity and passion. "Hi," she continued, gesturing to the portraits. "These are incredible. Do you take requests?" James blinked, momentarily surprised by her compliment. Yeah," he replied, setting his sketchpad aside. "I do. Would you like one?" She nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Think you can capture me?" James chuckled softly, reaching for a blank sheet of paper. "I can try," he said, motioning for her to sit. As she settled onto the stool, Beyoncé felt an unexpected sense of ease. She had been sketched before, by professionals, in grand studios, but something about this quiet park and this humble artist felt different. There were no pretenses here, no pressure to be Beyoncé, the superstar. She was just a woman, sitting for a portrait. James picked up his pencil and began to draw, his hands moving with practiced precision. As he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something familiar about her, something extraordinary. But he didn't press. He focused on his craft, determined to capture the essence of the person sitting before him. Little did James know, the woman in front of him wasn't just any passerby. She was a global icon, and the portrait he was creating would soon become the key to a transformation beyond his wildest dreams. James's hands moved deftly across the page, the scratch of charcoal, the only sound he paid attention to. He was in his zone, the noise of the bustling park fading into the background. The woman sitting before him radiated an effortless elegance, even in her casual attire. Her posture was relaxed, yet there was a quiet confidence in the way she held herself. As James sketched, he stole glances at her features. The curve of her jawline, the soft smile playing on her lips, and the unmistakable depth in her eyes. Every stroke of his pencil seemed to flow naturally, as if he had drawn her face 1,000 times before. The woman, on the other hand, watched him with curiosity. She noticed the way he tilted his head slightly when examining a detail, the faint smudges of charcoal on his fingers, and the focused intensity in his eyes. There was something captivating about his dedication, a kind of raw talent that wasn't often recognized. After what felt like an eternity, James leaned back and exhaled deeply, setting down his pencil. "All done," he said, holding the portrait up for her to see. The woman's breath hitched as she took in the drawing. It wasn't just accurate, it was alive. James had captured more than just her likeness. He had somehow managed to convey her spirit, her essence, the depth in her eyes, the warmth of her expression. It was all there, laid bare on the page. For a moment, she was silent, her emotions caught in her throat. Finally, she looked up at him, her sunglasses slipping slightly to reveal teary eyes. "This is incredible," she whispered, her voice heavy with awe. James smiled shyly, scratching the back of his head. "I'm glad you like it," he said. "You make a great subject." The woman stared at the portrait again, her emotions swirling. It had been years since someone had looked at her as more than just a celebrity. This sketch felt deeply personal, a mirror into her soul. She knew instantly that this wasn't an ordinary moment. It was a connection, rare and genuine. "I don't think you realize how talented you are," she said, her voice steady now but full of conviction. James shrugged modestly, packing the sketch into a protective sleeve. "I just try my best," he said. "It's all I can do." The woman smiled softly, sliding her sunglasses back up. "You've done more than your best," she murmured. She reached for her wallet, but as she opened it, a sudden thought crossed her mind. She paused, looking at James intently. In that moment, she made a decision, one that would alter both their lives forever. The park buzzed with life, yet James felt like the world had narrowed down to just him, the woman, and the portrait in his hands. He hesitated for a moment before handing it over, unsure of how she might react. His heart raced. This sketch was one of his best, and he hoped she would see the effort he had poured into it. The woman gently took the portrait and studied it closely. Her fingers lightly traced the outlines, as if feeling the emotions captured on the page. For a moment, her expression softened, and her lips trembled slightly. "This," she began, pausing to compose herself. "This is extraordinary." James's face broke into a grateful smile. "I'm glad you like it," he said, his voice tinged with relief. "I don't just like it," she said, her gaze meeting his. "It's more than I could have imagined. You've captured something real." She looked back at the portrait, and a tear escaped from beneath her sunglasses. James noticed it and hesitated, unsure of what to say. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. Did I get something wrong?" The woman shook her head, laughing softly through her tears. "No, not at all," she assured him. "It's perfect. It's just, you've reminded me of something I'd forgotten. What it feels like to be seen for who I truly am." James tilted his head, her words stirring his curiosity. "I'm glad it speaks to you," he said carefully, still unaware of her true identity. The woman set the portrait down gently and removed her sunglasses. For the first time, James got a clear look at her face. His eyes widened as recognition dawned. The cheekbones, the warm yet commanding eyes, the aura of someone extraordinary. It all clicked. James began, his voice faltering. "You're Beyoncé." She smiled, nodding slightly. "I am," she confirmed. James blinked, struggling to process what was happening. The woman he had sketched, the one sitting casually in front of him, was a global icon, a legend. He felt a wave of disbelief wash over him, followed by a twinge of anxiety. I didn't realize," he stammered. "If I'd known, I would have done exactly what you just did," she interrupted, her tone firm but kind. "That's why I came here like this. No glam, no entourage, just me. And what you've created, it's beautiful. It's honest." James's shoulders relaxed slightly, though he was still reeling. "Thank you," he said quietly. Beyoncé leaned back, her expression thoughtful. "You know, James," she began, "I've worked with some of the most talented artists in the world. But what you've done here is different. You've got a gift that deserves to be seen." Her words hung in the air, and for a moment, James felt a spark of hope. He couldn't quite believe what was happening, but deep down, he knew this moment was special, perhaps even life-changing. Beyoncé's gaze lingered on James, and there was a silence between them, a moment that felt both heavy and electric. He had never imagined that a day in the park, sketching portraits for spare change, would lead to something like this. His heart raced as he tried to process everything she had just said. "Thank you," James said again, his voice barely above a whisper. He couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the encounter, by the recognition, by the truth that the woman sitting before him was not just an ordinary customer, but a global icon who saw value in his work. But Beyoncé wasn't done yet. "You've got something real, James," she said, her voice steady and resolute. "And I want to help you share it with the world." James looked at her, blinking in confusion. "Share it with the world?" Beyoncé nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. "I'm going on tour soon, and I'm looking for an artist to join me, to capture the essence of the journey, the emotions, the moments, the connection with the fans. I want you to be that artist." James felt the world tilt on its axis. He had heard stories of artists being discovered, of dreams coming true, but never had he imagined himself in one of those stories. I don't understand," he stammered, still in shock. "You want me to join your tour? But I'm just a guy sketching portraits in the park." "I'm not." "Don't sell yourself short," Beyoncé interrupted gently. "I've seen what you can do. Your art isn't just about drawing faces. It's about capturing the soul of a moment, of a person. That's something special, James." She paused for a moment, letting the weight of her words settle between them. "I want you to be the official artist for my upcoming global tour. You'll be traveling with us, capturing the energy of the performances, the fans, the atmosphere. You'll be telling our story through your art." James's mind raced, struggling to grasp the magnitude of what she was saying. This wasn't just an opportunity to create. This was a chance to elevate his craft, to show the world what he was capable of. But the overwhelming thought in his head was, "Why me? I don't know what to say," he admitted, his voice shaky. "I never expected anything like this. I just wanted to help my mom. I just wanted to." Beyoncé smiled warmly, understanding the depth of his struggle. "I know, and that's why I want to help. You deserve to have your talent recognized, James. You deserve to live a life where you don't have to worry about the next meal, where your dreams are possible." She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. "I'll make the arrangements. We'll start small, but soon enough, the whole world will know your name. I'm serious about this, and I'm here to help you get there." For a moment, James could only stare at her in awe. It was almost too much to take in. The artist who had spent so many hours in solitude, creating pieces that few had seen, now had a chance to showcase his work on the biggest stage possible. He looked down at his hands, still stained with charcoal, and wondered if this was real. But then Beyoncé stood, offering him a hand. "Let's do this, James. Let's make your dream a reality." With a sense of awe and disbelief, James shook her hand. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one he had never imagined, but one that would change his life forever. James's life transformed almost overnight. What had once been a daily struggle to make ends meet, sketching portraits in the park for a few dollars, had now blossomed into an extraordinary opportunity. Within days of meeting Beyoncé, his world exploded with new possibilities, and he couldn't quite keep up with the whirlwind that was happening around him. Beyoncé's team reached out to him with all the details: flights, accommodations, and, most importantly, the chance to join her on the road as her official tour artist. He was both thrilled and overwhelmed. The idea of traveling the world, documenting the highs and lows of a global superstar's tour, was beyond anything he had ever dreamed. But it was happening. He was living his dream. The first few weeks of the tour were a blur. James was introduced to the crew and quickly became part of the family. His sketches, originally meant to capture candid moments of performers and fans, soon became the heartbeat of the entire tour. His art was displayed on massive screens during the shows, and it quickly garnered the attention of fans and media alike. Every night, James would sit backstage, sketching the energy of the crowd, the emotions of performers, and the atmosphere of the concert. His art was a raw, unfiltered reflection of the tour, and it resonated with people. His sketches brought the audience closer to the experience, making them feel as though they were part of something greater. But despite the fame and recognition, James never forgot the reason he started this journey in the first place: his mother. The long nights on the road were filled with thoughts of her, of how much he wanted to see her healthy again, to provide the medical care she desperately needed. As his art gained fame, the media caught wind of the young black artist traveling with Beyoncé, capturing the emotional essence of the tour. The stories of his rise were featured in newspapers and on TV. Slowly, James's name became known, and with it, a growing stream of opportunities. His work began to attract other artists, collectors, and philanthropists, all eager to see more of what he could create. But James didn't let the fame change him. He kept his eyes on his ultimate goal: using his success to help his mother. He used the funds from his art sales and the increasing recognition he gained to invest in something that would change the lives of countless others. He began researching hospitals that provided treatment for underprivileged families, and with Beyoncé's encouragement and support, he started the process of funding one. The hospital would focus on providing top-tier medical care for families who couldn't afford the exorbitant costs of healthcare. As the tour continued, James's life felt like a dream. From the quiet park where he first sketched portraits to the stages of arenas around the world, his journey had come full circle. And in the end, it wasn't just about the fame or the money. It was about making a difference. James was no longer just a struggling artist. He was a symbol of perseverance, a testament to the power of hard work, talent, and the belief that anything was possible. His name was known around the world, but it was his actions, his commitment to giving back, that truly defined him. With Beyoncé's support and the impact of his art, James had not only transformed his own life, but had begun to change the lives of others. The world now knew his name, and his story had become an inspiration for millions. As James's fame grew, so did the significance of his work. The world saw him not just as a talented artist, but as a symbol of hope and inspiration. What started as a dream of providing for his sick mother had expanded into something even greater. Now, he wasn't just capturing moments on paper. He was helping to create a legacy. Throughout the tour, Beyoncé's mentorship had been invaluable. She guided him not just in art, but in life. Under her wing, James learned the importance of staying grounded despite success. She shared her own struggles, her journey from being a young artist to a global icon, and the challenges that came with fame. Her advice wasn't just about art. It was about perseverance, authenticity, and never losing sight of one's roots. By the end of the tour, James had become a household name. His portraits weren't just appreciated by fans. They were displayed in galleries and sought after by collectors. His work had captured the hearts of people all over the world, but it wasn't the fame or money that mattered most. It was what he had done with that recognition. True to his word, James had used his newfound wealth and influence to make a lasting impact. With Beyoncé's help and the support of his fans, he was able to open the doors to the hospital he had always dreamed of. It was a place where families in need would receive world-class medical treatment, regardless of their ability to pay. The hospital, named in honor of his mother, became a beacon of hope in the community. James worked tirelessly to ensure that it was more than just a building. It was a lifeline for those who had no other options. His success had come full circle. His mother had received the best treatment, but now, so many others would too. Years later, James stood at the opening of the hospital, surrounded by family, friends, and supporters. The ribbon was cut, and the doors opened to welcome the first patients. The place was buzzing with activity, and James felt an overwhelming sense of pride. He had done it, but more than just the success of the hospital, James knew that he had created something that would outlive him. His art had inspired others. His hospital would change lives for generations, and his story was a testament to what can happen when talent, hard work, and kindness collide. As he stood there, reflecting on how far he had come, from that park bench sketching for a few dollars to changing the world with his art, he realized that his journey wasn't just about the accolades or the fame. It was about the lives he had touched, the people he had helped, and the legacy he had created. And through it all, Beyoncé remained by his side, proud of the young artist who had become so much more than she ever imagined. James had become a force for change, and his story would inspire generations to come. James's story is a testament to the power of dreams, hard work, and the impact one person can have on the world. If you've ever felt like giving up, remember that even the smallest steps can lead to life-changing moments. Whether it's pursuing your passion or using your success to help others, your journey matters. If James's story inspired you, share it with others. Let it be a reminder that no dream is too big, no journey too long. Subscribe to Epic Story Moments for more incredible stories that will inspire you to take action, push beyond your limits, and never stop believing in the power of change. Don't wait for the world to notice you. Make your own impact, just like James did. The world is waiting for your story.